So before we get into the main topic of this video, I just want to mention this. By no means do I think that Destiny 2 is done, how there's no hope for this franchise. The franchise is dead at the water, and once the final shape comes, there's nothing to be excited about, and you should stop playing this game. These are all sentiments I do not agree with, but we need to jump into the state of the game and give my reaction and my thoughts. So let's do that right now. All right, so Bungie's state of the game was yesterday, and it isn't being received well by the community at all. For example, ritual armor sets. They're not promising them anymore. This is a point where I'll get very angry at, but let's throw this meme here on screen. My buddy Dennis sent me this, and I kind of pretty much agree with this. It's kind of laughable. At this point with ritual armor sets, we'll jump into this because I think this is the main angry point I have amongst everything. Everything else I kind of expected and kind of figured, but ritual armor sets are free to players, and they're completely now eliminating new armor sets that are free. If you play Destiny, you likely purchase the expansions and things like that. And I'm not saying that you don't have a gateway to have different armor sets, but at this point, there is no armor sets for free to try players. Like, let's say you can't spend money. Let's say you're my teenager self when Destiny 1 came out, who only paid for the DLCs, for the expansions when I could. You know, I saved my money for these moments, things like that. I can't participate in this generation of Destiny because everything is locked behind a paywall. And if I want new armor sets, guys, I have to make sure I get the annual pass, and I can't participate in Eververse stuff. And while I know, yes, there is Bright Dust, but those Bright Dust challenges reward players who play a ton, who complete them. And not everybody has the ability to complete every single Bright Dust challenge. So they're not going to get the max amount that they can every single time. So not only did they break their promise, they completely disregard the fact that they made that promise. And the reason they're doing that is kind of bullshit because it's evidence that they can make armor sets at a great pace because they're doing it all the time with the Eververse store and with seasonal content and endgame content with dungeons and raids. So like, you're saying that, oh yeah, these ritual armor sets have low engagements. Well, because you control that. The stats are shit. They're not very friendly to new players. And, you know, I mean, I like some of the, ritual armor sets in the past, but come on, this doesn't look very enticing. Like, who wants this compared to, that? It's like you're saying, hey, yeah, you guys ain't doing it, shame on you, even though we control how it looks, how the stats work. So there's my frustration on that. On the PvP and gambit side of things, it's what we should have all expected. Like, some of the sentiment around it is kind of frustrating. Now, on the gambit side, I do blame Bungie a bit on this regard. You guys, by choice, made a massive overhaul, which in many people's opinions hurt the mode, didn't help it. On top of that, the only content we've ever gotten for Gambit besides new weapons every season, specifically one every season, is removing maps, or at least removing content. How are we going to support Gambit when the only thing you have done is take away, and then you blame engagement as the fact of, hey, you guys don't play this, so we're not working on it. You guys didn't put in the fair effort to work on it. And yes, maybe that's a byproduct of them focusing more on PvE stuff, and reason why the story, in my opinion, I love the narrative stuff going on. The story is what keeps me engaged with Destiny along with some of the endgame content. That was by your choice. Now, on the PvP side of things, I'll be honest, a lot of people won't admit this. PvP was never meant for success in Destiny. It was proven that in D1. It has proven that in D2. There is no reason to incentivize and make a game focus on PvP because guess what, guys? It will hurt the whole game as a whole. PvP is one of those byproducts that it's just shit fun to play and nothing you should take serious. The reason I say that is because there are so many different variables that make PvE so great that create variables in PvP that are absolutely atrocious. Now, I'm not saying they can't fix it. I think that they should be locking a lot of shit and restricting a lot of shit. For example, I've always said this, class abilities in PvP at this point, I think should be removed. We didn't have them in D1, and that was the strongest period of where I think PvP felt on a balanced standpoint, where now abilities have such a massive impact from wells to barricades to dodges that it affects the kind of foundation that D1 kind of intended. And then on top of that, defensive supers, bubbles, well irradiances, some of this stuff completes a massively frustrating experience that restricting them will create a much better time for players and create a more streamlined approach that maybe they can focus a little bit more on PvP and get engagement and sentiment around that mode up. But they're not doing any of that. They think that content is the only thing we require, and it's not true. Giving that reasoning that, hey, you guys like this stuff, well, that's why we can't do that stuff, is kind of annoying, it's kind of frustrating, and comes off the wrong way. Again, I said, PvP was never meant for success in Destiny at this point, and it's pretty clear that's not what saved this franchise. It's a fun little avenue, but I'll be honest, 10 years playing Destiny, I never met a friend that wanted to play PvP. They've avoided it, and that's the reality of a majority of the player base that plays Destiny in general. So when you have those, variables at hand, it makes sense that they're saying what they're saying. So I'm not upset, I'm just neutral about stuff like that. But the main takeaway here about all this, what I said, is that this was an awful time from Bungie to drop this. This got sentiment about the franchise to a new low, in my opinion. This isn't obviously the worst experience we've ever had with Destiny, the worst period we've ever had. I still think that there's a handful of other times that we're in a worse place, but this was not what the community needed. A lot of this state of the game was all about, hey, you guys are going to be really excited about this stuff when we showcase it August 22nd during our showcase. Yeah, get ready, guys. It was like an advertisement to the showcase, not really, anything that brought us back up and got excited for. So I think Bungie should have not dropped this at this period. I think they should have waited till after the showcase, or, with more details and more positive stuff that you want to talk about, get into detail with some of that in the state of the game after you reveal some stuff. Talk about some stuff. They can't talk about everything in the showcase because they restrict it to a certain time limit, in their opinion. They don't have to do that, but I think it's best that they do that sometimes. They could have gave us more details that they could have covered in the showcase in this state of the game, which would have been a massive up. I'm excited for the showcase. I think the showcase can be great, but stuff like this brings the community down, and it's why you see some content creators saying, hey, it's a nail in the coffin, this franchise done after the final shape. None of these sentiments I agree with, but at the same time, can you blame them when they drop this negative state of the game out there? And again, the only meaningful stuff we got is explaining why this stuff will continue to lack in content, specifically PvP and Gambit, and while we're scrapping away with free armor sets in the ritual sets. But yeah, it is what it is. I'm still optimistic about this game. I still play this game a good bit. I always say this to people. My cycle with Destiny throughout the years and throughout at least this live service method is when an expansion plays, I'm pretty much playing the whole season. And then for the following seasons after that, I only play for the narrative half and then come back and forth with the endgame content. I do take a break, play other games that I have, and it's healthy. It's why I've been playing this game so long. So I encourage people to adopt a different cycle if you guys are only playing this game, because I feel like that's part of the reaction to the state of the game. But let me know your thoughts down below. Do you agree that they should have just waited at this point? Because at this very moment, dropping it in this current climate wasn't a good idea. But leave your thoughts down below. If you guys enjoyed this video, found this video informative, definitely drop this video a like, helps out the video a ton. And if you guys want more content from me, definitely be sure to hit the subscribe button and that bell to be notified for when I do drop more content. But besides that, I hope you guys have a good one. ShadowNinja here, and I'm out.